All right. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce Jeanna Repass. I met her about 5 minutes ago, and I've known her for 20 years. I read her bio, and she will tell you about it, I am sure. But I was struck by this. This is what she heard from her mom growing up. If not now, when? And if not you, then who? And I think those are amazing words that give me goosebumps just to say them out loud. And I have no doubt that they produce an amazing woman. So Jeanna Repass.
Thank you. Am I standing in the right place? So good to see you, Christina. She's probably like, oh, it's Jeanna again. But I will tell you, that's such an honor when you're in places with people that you love and respect and you see them other places, I being one. And I want to thank both Adina and Kelly. I want to share a little anecdote. Kelly reached out to me directly, and my campaign team's like, don't answer emails or phone calls. Whatever you do, don't touch your schedule. But I agreed because what she did was offer to buy me lunch today. I know, and I know that, on the surface, but there's a deeper meaning to that. That food is that nourishment. And it was a nourishing thing from a woman in support. And it's something I think other people might miss. And listen, almost everywhere I go, someone's trying to feed me, but it's like, here's a cookie or here's a this. She said, in the middle of your day, can I buy you lunch? And it was such a kindness, and it was such a nurturing thing to do. And I want to say thank you for that. So, yeah, so we're going to have lunch.
Beans.
Yes, that's right. Well, I'm going to jump right in because I know there's several of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, and so I want to just let you get to know me better. My name is Jeanna Repass. I have the honor and the distinction of being the first ever African-American Latino woman nominated in the 161-year history of our state to a state It's shameful to me that that's what the case is. But being the first, I promise I will not be the only. We open doors for each other to walk through. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, give you a couple of anecdotes, and get out of the way. Number one, I'm a wife and a mom. My husband Kyle, who's in the doghouse below today, but it's fine. He's having to do some of the things that I would normally do because I'm out campaigning, and he's like, I have to do that? I'm like, yeah, guess what? Welcome to it. But we have 3 amazing children. My older son, Adam, graduated from Kansas State, or he went to Kansas State, played football for Bill Snyder. He is gainfully employed, thank you, at the CBS affiliate in Kansas City covering sports. Our daughter, Ariel, is a medical student at KU Med. And today she's out at Mizzou for homecoming. It was very cute to see her excited to go back to Mizzou for homecoming. And our baby is 6'8". State football champion last year. He's graduated from high school in May, and he is a freshman at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, studying mechanical engineering. Although he came home and said, I think I'm going to be a philosophy major. He's taking a philosophy class this semester, and I'm like, you just school your face. You're like, yes, that's a great way to make a living. So I have 3 amazing kids, but when my son Christian graduated from high school, I knew that the next chapter in my life was to public service. And now I'm going to tell you why. My father is a Vietnam veteran. He gave up a football scholarship at the University of Nebraska to volunteer for service in Vietnam. And he was one of 70 African-American Latino men to get into a helicopter pilot program. He was the only one to graduate. And the life expectancy of the men in that program was 4 months. He did 3 tours.
Wow.
And left. And then he spent his life as a law enforcement officer. And then my mother was a civil rights activist who then spent the rest of her life as a pastor. And I will say those 2 great Americans instilled in my brothers and I a deep and an abiding love of our country. And I will tell you, standing here in this skin as an African-American Latino woman, I know what the flaws are in the country. I walk it, live it, feel it, eat it, and breathe it every day. But in spite of those things, I believe in our country. My parents taught me to, and it is because of the ideals. The ideals that got us through the Civil War, got us through Jim Crow, got us to Brown versus the Board of Education, Topeka, and then put Thurgood Marshall on our Supreme Court. That got us the 1963 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Act, that got us Roe in the first place. Our ideals. We now have had Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. Those are our ideals, and I still believe in them very, very, very much, and I love our country. And that's because of who my parents told us to be. Now let's talk about what that really means. We are a representative republic. I am running for Secretary of State. That is a role that protects and certifies your right to vote. I would say to you, your vote is your voice. So I'll give you an anecdote. There's a Lutheran, I'm in the room with so many smart women, so please forgive me. I know you've probably heard this, but a Lutheran pastor in Nazi-era Germany, his name is Martin Niemöller, and he's famous for this quote, and it is, when they came for the socialists, I said nothing because I wasn't a socialist. When they came for the trade unionists, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. But when they came for me, there was no one left to speak. Your vote is your voice. If you're not speaking, who's speaking for you? And what are they saying? And I will tell you, that's why I'm running to be the Secretary of State. We have a voice in this great democracy. When we are off track, our voice is what gets us back on track. It's how we live into those ideals. We go into the booth and we vote. That is our voice. And we refuse to let anyone else speak for us, because then when we don't, there'll be no one left to speak. And we have to do that. Another little anecdote about my mom. Now I will tell you, I shared this last night at an event. My dad's like, you talk about your mom a lot. Can you tell people a little more about me? And I'm like, what do you want me to say? He said, tell them that my call signal was Nighthawk. My dad's call signal was Nighthawk. So there you go. My mom used to say to my brothers and I all the time, you're getting too comfortable. You're getting too comfortable. I'm worried you guys are getting too comfortable. And it wasn't conversational. Like, there was heat on this. There was passion. And now you've come to understand a sense of urgency to what she was saying. And I finally got bold one day and I said, Mom, isn't that what you marched for and fought for, so we could be comfortable and your grandkids would be comfortable? She looked at me in the eye and she goes, absolutely not. We marched. We fought so that you could have equal access. You could have equal rights. Don't you dare get comfortable. And I now understand what she was saying to me. She's saying, when you're comfortable, it's kind of like coasting. You know, we're just on a nice trajectory, we're coasting along. But here's the thing about coasting. Physically, it is impossible to coast up. You cannot make progress when you're coasting. You're lucky if you come to a standstill. But what you can also do is go backwards. And I want to postulate to you, when that Dobbs decision came down and women no longer had the right of autonomy guaranteed to us over our bodies, we're going backwards. When we have a United States Congress that has overwhelmingly bipartisanly upheld the Voting Rights Act, and now all of a sudden we can't pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we're going backwards. I have an 18-year-old in college right now, and trust me, he had a bit of a week. That young man does not need a weapon of war at 18. When we cannot have common sense gun reform, we're going backwards. Our vote is the only way to protect us from that. And we do have the right to peacefully protest. And I was in a great conversation about that earlier. We need to get in the streets. We need to be visible. We have to keep marching. But if we don't vote, we're marching for no reason. Because without our voice, someone else is speaking for you, and we've already heard what they've got to say. Terrifying. So let's talk about our voice a little bit. Our current incumbent Secretary of State comes off as a moderate. I love a moderate. Well, and that's okay. People meet like, oh, he's a nice guy. We all have worked next to nice guys that make your life harder because they don't do their job. That's what we have in our current Secretary of State. And I'm not going to bash him because that's just not who I am, but I'm going to talk to you about facts. And one of the facts is that we had 45,000 provisional ballots cast in the state of Kansas in the 2020 election. Loud Light asked to find out who those people were so that they could inform them, so that that wouldn't happen to them the second time. Your current incumbent not only fought them, he disabled the function on the Secretary of State's website where you're supposed to, by law, be able to go find that. Then he finally lost at the district court level, and they said, you're in violations of Kansas Open Records Act. And he vowed to fight it to the Supreme Court. Now, he didn't ultimately do what he did do was drag it out past the August 2nd Amendment. So real quick, just a little anecdote, just a little information about what that means. If I walk into a polling place and I don't have my ID, it's like, oh, which purse did I carry? Right? You still have the right to vote. Don't let anyone turn you away. You stand there and make them let you vote. But that'll be a provisional ballot, or if you moved and your dress hasn't changed. But then it's up to you to go to your county clerk and fix that so that your ballot comes out of provisional status. But if you voted by mail or drop box and your signature doesn't match, according to whoever's checking it, because if you read the laws, those provisions, it's discretionary on who gets to decide whether that matched or not. Or you transpose the number on your driver's license, which Lord knows. Right? You could have gone into provisional status, 45,000. Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliates, that happened to, and we couldn't figure out whom, because your current Secretary of State, the moderate, didn't want you to know. I have a whole list of other reasons why I'm asking for that job. I actually want to do it. I actually believe that it's important. So I'll end with this story about, one more story about my mom. Jeanna Repass, a civil rights activist, left us last year, December 17th, the week before Christmas. Christmas Eve was the Friday. She passed away on that Friday, the 17th. And that Friday was the Friday before Sunday, December 19th, which is the children's Christmas pageant out of church. So I'm going to take you to church with me a little bit from my mom's church. My mom looked a lot like me, or I think I would say, I'd like to believe I looked like her. She's much more beautiful than I think. She had the wear of the civil rights movement on her. And those of you in the streets know what that feels like. She also had the grace of God on her face. And she pastored an all-white congregation. All rural, mostly farmers, outside of Fremont, Nebraska. Little white chapel church with a bell tower up front. It's got a little cemetery next door. And you can Google it. I know people have, because I've been getting calls from her former secretary. She's like, well, our website's getting a lot of hits. Their Facebook pages. In any event, on the Christmas pageant Sunday, they still give away the brown paper sack that has an apple and orange, some nuts and hard candy in it. I talked her into adding chocolate a couple of years ago. Mom, just give the kids a little chocolate. But her passing was very sudden, and we were shocked, and her church was shocked. So my brothers and I knew that we needed to go to that church on Sunday, to Pahako, and stand there and greet them and hug them and embrace them. And we did, and people came up to us. It was terrible. We were all crying. But a woman came up to us in particular, and she had a little girl clinging to her leg, and she said, I just need you to know, my daughter thought that your mom was Jesus. And I share that story every day for two reasons. One, because in my faith, I believe that that's what the kingdom of heaven looks like. But standing here as Jeanna Repass's daughter, that's who she taught me this country, our aspirations are. We love each other from the inside out. That we see the greater good by what we do and who we are, how we make each other feel. That's the America that I'm standing here to defend. That's the democracy I still believe in. And that's the democracy that I'm saying to you, it is your job to save. It is your job to go out and vote, and not just vote, go take someone with you. Our registration deadline just passed on the 18th, but we still have power, and it is ours to take back. I'm going to end with this little known fact. It's okay to love your neighbor again. It's okay to love your neighbor again. We're in an era of such vitriol of the otherisms, and it's up to us to do it. I'm going to tell you, I know so many moderate Republicans who are waiting for us to lean forward into it, and we can. If you had a vote no sign in your yard, and your neighbor had a vote yes sign, but they fall ill, go mow their grass. Go take them a meal. Lean forward with kindness, because that is the heart, the root of our ideals that make us the best selves that we can be. Unless we want to go backwards, and I know we don't, we can pedal and put energy into kindness and into our democracy. So that is why I'm running to be your Secretary of State, because I believe in our voice, and I will protect it. So as my mother would say, if not now, then when? And if not you, then who? So I'm offering myself to be the who right now, because I believe now is the when. So thank you. I'm Jeanna Repass. I'm so pleased to be here.